Twin Peaks is widely discussed for its weirdness and what it actually is about. However, I'd like to talk about a much less appreciated aspect of the show, in my opinion, that being the horror of the series. Now, this comes mostly from two things. The first and most obvious example of this is Bob, who is for most of the series the main antagonist. And now, what makes him terrifying is multifaceted. From his origins,
I always say anybody knows how the Twin Peaks Bob came about happening. You know, I was there when that happened. It was just a set decorator who was hiding behind the chair. And, you know, we did our shot, and Sean was his name. Sean Doyle was the operator, and he said, no, it's not good for me, David. I saw Frank De Silva hiding behind with the sofa. And David said, that's it, perfect. We got it.
In matters of money, Deepak is never wrong. But in this case, Deepak is completely and totally wrong, and he's taught the story completely wrong. Frank Silva was the set decorator, and we were shooting in Laura Palmer's bedroom, and Frank was moving furniture around, and a woman said, Frank, don't lock yourself in that room, because he had just moved a chest of drawers in front of the door. And I wasn't even looking in that direction, but the image of Frank locked in that room popped into my head. And I rushed to Frank, and I said, Frank, are you an actor? And he said, why, yes, happened to be. And I said, you're going to be in this movie. And he said, fantastic. And so I had Frank hide on one pan shot across Laura Palmer's bedroom, freeze down by the bars of the bed, and just be looking right at the camera. And we shot that. And I didn't know what I was going to use it for, no idea at all. We kept shooting in Laura Palmer's house, and that night we were shooting one of the last thing in the house. Mrs. Palmer's tormented on the couch, smoking a cigarette, and scenes are playing back in her head, and suddenly she sees something in her mind, bolts upright, and screams. Sean Doyle, he got that right, and tilts up and captures the scream perfectly. And I said, fantastic. And Sean says, no, it's not fantastic. I said, Sean, what is the matter? He said, someone was reflected in the mirror. I said, who was reflected in the mirror? And he said, Frank Silva was reflected in the mirror. And that's when I knew that Frank was part of the scene.
that just make him even scarier, given the sense he's always watching the Palmer house through mirrors, to the fact he only has less than 6 minutes of screen time, excluding the return and the missing pieces. So when he does appear, it's horrifying. The most obvious example of this is the Bob Crawl, which I believe perfectly encapsulates the horror of Bob, as you feel powerless to do anything when he's around. This is enhanced incredibly by the fact that come the ending, he is won, and for 25 years it will remain that way, and the ending leaving you feeling as to what Bob has to offer the rest of the world, as now he is free to do what he wants.
How's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie?
This is made further horrifying with what Bob represents, abuse, as we find out Bob possessed Leland and would rape his daughter, Laura Palmer, and mentally abuse her, whilst drugging Sarah. Whilst in the show it's mostly shown that Leland is innocent, and Bob did those crimes alone, however in the film, via Walk With Me, it's revealed Bob just kind of allowed Leland to absolve himself of any guilt, and Leland was fully aware of what he was doing, and Bob representing the cycle of abuse is made much clearer in the film.
Oh my God! Oh my God! No, 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 no. No. No.
Now the next big horror aspect of the series is just the Black Lodge and its entities. Now, Twin Peaks kind of changed with Cooper's dream sequence, in which you get introduced to the man from another place, Laura Palmer, and the way they talk backwards and the strange unsettling sounds of the Red Room. Each time we enter the Red Room and the Black Lodge, it gets much more horrifying, almost to a cosmic horror level, with the flashing lights, the evil doppelgangers, the otherworldly feel of the Black Lodge, which is made clearer, much more scary and final with me, with the introduction of Philip Jeffries.
Meet the long-lost Philip Jeffries. You may have heard of him at the Academy.
Well, now, I'm not going to talk about Judy. In fact, we're not going to talk about Judy at all.
Gordon?
Which truly entirely changed the series with the introduction of the name of Judy, which in the original cut of the film, this scene is almost incomprehensible, especially on first viewing. However, seeing the scene in the missing pieces, it's still as unnerving as the original, also making it much more watchable, and makes you question who is this Judy person or thing, and we get introduced to much more entities like the Woodsman and the Jumping Man. And Judy by herself is presented as this omnipresent evil thing from their appearance on cards, just their appearance, Hawk's map, and her connecting with Sarah Palmer. All horrifying. The last aspect I'd like to talk about is the kind of fourth wall meta level of the series. Now, whether or not you believe Twin Peaks is about TV or a dream, it does seem to have in some sense a meta level to the show. The biggest and scariest example is Evil Cooper looking directly at the camera. It's one of the most out of nowhere scenes in the show, and on original viewing catches you off guard, like a good fourth wall break should do. There is also We Live Inside a Dream moment in which Cooper's superimposed face looks like the reflection of a TV screen, in my opinion.
We live inside a dream.
And going back to that Philip Jeffries scene, gives off the feeling like he knows he's in a show or a film, thus telling Gordon Cole, the director of the FBI, played by the director of the film, if he knows who Cooper is. Like he knows Cooper is the main character of the series.
Who do you think that is there?
Suffered some bumps in the old noggin, eh, Phil?
So yeah, that was just an aspect of the show I felt was quite underrated in my opinion, and helps the show give it that Twin Peaks tone, and I believe should be praised more than it truly is.